students. This is Donna, the tutor. I'd like to talk to you today about creating a sample application letter, also known as a cover letter. Now, these days there are many templates that you can look at online through Microsoft Suite, Microsoft Word actually, or one of the other similar programs. But you can also create your own simple stationery with your name at the top, with your address, city, state, and zip code, and your email here. And you can also add some kind of simple decoration um, in between this, such as just a simple line or something like that. Here, I just have the most basic. The next thing you'll want to have is the date of your letter. If you are like me, I would encourage you to make a copy of a standard letter and then keep the date as it is right here with just date so that you will remember to change the date for that particular date. The next thing you'll do is have the name of the hiring official or committee members, of the department for which you're applying for, the name of the business, the company, etc., their address, including the city, state, and zip code. The next, you'll have a subject line, which here is just abbreviated as RE, which stands for regarding. And then you'll have a position or number here. And then this number here is just a random number I created. And then the next, you'll have a salutation, which in this case is Dear Sir or Madam. That's based on the idea that you may not know who the hiring official is. If at all possible, I would encourage you to call the business name or department and find out the name of the hiring official and try to politely find out the gender of the person so that your letter could say Mr. or Ms. Remember that Ms. is spelled MS. So, in general, your cover letter is a one-page essay about you. So, if you treat each paragraph, which these are short paragraphs about you, each will have a basic topic sentence and will focus on a particular point that you want to make in each paragraph. So the entry paragraph, the introductory paragraph, will state your reason, your interest in the position. In other words, the reason for your letter. And here I say at the business name, so you'll insert the name of the company or the business. And then you'll have some kind of phrase as to the reason why you want the position. I usually explain that I'm passionate somehow about the function of that company or the position. The next thing you'll want to do is explain how you saw the position advertised. So it could be through some type of third-party website, such as Indeed or Monster.com. But you could also list the company's website if that's the case that you found it. It's possible that you heard about the position from a friend. And in that case, you could specify here, I heard about the position through a friend who is employed at the company, for instance, and then name that friend. That's a very simple way of inserting a reference. The next thing you'll want to do is briefly describe in one sentence your philosophy about your career or your uh, philosophy of work somehow. You're more likely to have a philosophy statement the more professional position you apply for. So if you're applying for an entry level customer service type position, you may not have a philosophy statement. The next thing you'll want to do is describe your abilities and skills. Make sure that these relate to the position that you're applying for. If you're able to look at the key words that is used in the job description, it's okay to use those exact words because most likely a computer algorithm is going to read your letter and filter it. So the next, you'll briefly describe your educational background. And then lastly, sum up just like you would any other paragraph. Your last sentence will be some type of conclusion statement. And in this case, it's again, you want to reference back to your interest in the position. So your next paragraph will follow, just like your introductory paragraphs in an essay follow the same sequence as your essay. Your cover letter will do the same. So your first paragraph will have a detailed philosophy statement, but again, you may not need it. And then your next paragraph will reference one of these key abilities and skills that you have. Pick one and start in order and describe it. Tell a little story about yourself or in regard to your work as a way to form a narrative about yourself. Don't just reiterate or explain your resume again. They can already read your resume. What you want to do now is introduce yourself, the real you within the work environment. And you'll do this again and again to reference these skills and abilities. Okay? So if you list 3 skills, for instance, then you'll have 3 of these paragraphs. Your fourth paragraph, if you have one, might describe some kind of volunteerism that you would have as it relates to the position. So if your volunteer work does not relate to the position somehow, then you could leave it off. For instance, if you're applying for a position as an accountant and you have worked through some type of organization that completes taxes for senior citizens or for others who are in need of tax services, then that is something that you can include. Your last paragraph, which again will be very short, will be a conclusion that will somehow state that you welcome an opportunity to interview for the position. And you'll state what you've included in your letter in the order that you're including it. And depending on the type of position that you apply for, some of the enclosures would include a list of references, which should be 3 professional references, a copy of your transcript, your college transcript, any certificates that you may hold that's relevant to the position. And it's possible that you would have a full page philosophy statement. So those could be included there. And then you'll want to state your contact information. Because think of this as a television show. You've encouraged and interested the person to read your letter all the way from the top to the end. And now they are here at the very end of your letter, the climax, so to speak, of your letter. And we don't want them to have to go all the way back up to the top to read your contact information, because at this point, let's assume that they are willing to call you. They are keenly interested and they can't wait to pick up the phone. So state your information here so that they can read it right there in your conclusion letter. And then afterward, you'll have sincerely, and you should skip usually 4 spaces and then type your first and last name. If you have a middle name or an initial, feel free to include that. And then lastly, you'll have the list of enclosures here again, and you'll list them in order. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, students.